The explosion in Beirut. Why was so much dangerous ammonium nitrate sitting in a warehouse for 6 years? Hi there, this is Plain English, lesson number 286. I'm Jeff. JR is the producer, and the full lesson can be found at plainenglish.com/286. On today's lesson, we'll talk about what happened in Beirut. A massive explosion in the city's port left dozens of people dead and countless others injured or homeless, and all because a warehouse held a huge cache of highly flammable chemicals that nobody even wanted. Our expression is pass through, and we have a quote of the week. A cataclysmic explosion devastated Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, on August 4th after a warehouse full of ammonium nitrate exploded, killing over 150 people, injuring thousands, and leaving about 300,000 people homeless. Ammonium nitrate is a highly flammable chemical used to make fertilizer. 2 explosions took place at the Port of Beirut that day, a small one followed by a much larger one at 6:08 p.m. local time. The second blast was felt as far away as Cyprus, and its force was equivalent to a 3.3 magnitude earthquake. Survivors said it felt like an earthquake. Buildings shook violently, glass shattered, furniture toppled, and some structures collapsed. Many people in the immediate area were thrown from their feet and injured by falling objects or broken glass. Others were trapped under collapsed buildings. Hospitals quickly filled up. Patients were transported to hospitals outside the city for emergency treatment. One of the city's biggest hospitals, St. George Hospital, was so damaged it had to stop accepting patients. Because the streets were blocked, many of the injured had to walk themselves to the hospital. Doctors told one woman with a head injury that she had inadvertently swallowed a liter of her own blood on the walk to the hospital. Rescue workers went door to door in the hardest hit areas well into the night of August 4th and into the next day as they continued to find people trapped and injured. The explosion was caught on video from several vantage points, including the rooftops of nearby buildings. These videos showed the plume of black, white, and orange smoke rising from the port area. Downtown Beirut was badly scarred by the explosion. Photos showed collapsed buildings, piles of rubble, broken glass, uprooted trees, and debris strewn in every direction. Homes and cars were damaged even far away from the blast site. The day after the explosion, photos showed the port completely flattened except for a set of heavily damaged grain silos. Beirut is an important seaport in the Middle East. It's on the eastern edge of the Mediterranean Sea. Before the blast, over half of Lebanon's imports passed through this one port. The city is home to between 1 and 2 million people, and the port is located just a few kilometers from the heart of the city and just meters from a populated residential area. Why was there explosive material sitting in a warehouse in the middle of a teeming metropolitan area? The material was confiscated from a cargo ship in 2014. The ship was headed from Georgia to Mozambique when it made an emergency stop in Beirut in late 2013 due to mechanical issues. Government inspectors in Beirut saw the ship was damaged and declared it unseaworthy, meaning that it could not continue its journey. The owner of the ship didn't claim the cargo and made no effort to recover the ship or its contents, so the cargo was transferred to a warehouse at the Port of Beirut in early 2014. That is where it sat in warehouse number 12 for over 6 years without proper safety or security measures until it exploded this month. Preliminary reports said the explosion was triggered by construction work nearby. A spark from a welding operation set off the blast, according to one report. A conflicting report said that a fire broke out in a warehouse nearby and spread to warehouse number 12, where the ammonium nitrate exploded. Shortly after the blast, a letter appeared online. It was written by the head of customs at the Port of Beirut. In the letter, he warned that it was dangerous to have such high levels of explosive material in storage at the port, and he was concerned for the safety of port employees. He asked a judge what could be done with the chemicals, and he even proposed exporting it or selling it to an explosives company. The letter appeared authentic, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. Because it is so dangerous, ammonium nitrate is heavily controlled in most countries. Americans and Chinese will recognize the power of ammonium nitrate explosions. In 2015, a series of explosions hit the port of Tianjin, not far from Beijing. Fires burned for an entire weekend as 8 subsequent explosions went off. Over 100 firefighters were killed in the attempt to control the fires in Tianjin. The worst industrial accident in American history took place in 1947 when a ship carrying ammonium nitrate exploded in a port in Texas, leading to a domino effect of other explosions and fires. One of the biggest domestic terrorist attacks in America's recent history was the bombing of a government building in Oklahoma in 1995. A truck bomb containing just 2 tons of ammonium nitrate exploded, killing over 168 people in a government office building. Today's expression is to pass through. It's a phrasal verb. So what does it mean to pass through something or to pass through at some time? I used it in a fairly typical manner in today's lesson about the explosions in Beirut. I said that about 60% of Lebanon's imports pass through the port of Beirut. At least they did before the explosion closed the port. 60% of Lebanon's imports passed through the port. When something is on its journey and goes through an area without stopping for a very long time, then it passes through that area. The goods that Lebanon imports from other countries travel through the port. They arrive at the port. They are unloaded from ships, loaded onto trucks, possibly stored in warehouses for a short period of time, but they are soon going to their destination. So we say these goods pass through the port. They go through it. They don't stop for a long time. There is a pair of tunnels that trains use to go from New Jersey to New York City. The tunnels were built in the very early part of the 20th century, so they are over 100 years old. Over 400 trains pass through those tunnels each day. It's incredible how busy those tunnels are, how many commuters go from New Jersey to New York and vice versa on those trains. Now, the tunnels are leaking and breaking down, so they need to be either repaired or replaced because so many people use them. 400 trains pass through those tunnels every day. Now, those trains end up at Pennsylvania Station, the busiest train station in the country. Believe me when I say, nobody goes to Penn Station to voluntarily spend time. Everyone who goes to Penn Station is just passing through. They are on their way to somewhere else. Now, speaking of tunnels, it is possible to drive from Britain to mainland Europe. You can load your car onto a special train that takes you and your car underneath the English Channel from England to either France or Belgium. You and your car pass through the tunnel aboard the train. In these times of COVID, the British government has said that if you go to Belgium and return to the UK, you need to self-quarantine. But the UK government said that if you only pass through Belgium, and if you don't get out of your car while you're passing through, then you don't have to self-quarantine when you get back to the UK. So now, I imagine the gas stations and restaurants just on the other side of the border in Germany or the Netherlands are going to be doing a brisk business with British travelers preparing to cross the border. Speaking of car trips, you might stop for lunch in a small town along the way. Imagine you walk out of a restaurant and someone asks you for directions. You don't know this town. You just stopped for lunch. So you might tell that person, "I'm sorry, I'm only passing through." You are only passing through because you just stopped briefly before continuing your journey. You can say that a storm will pass through the area. Usually, thunderstorms don't stand still. They're always moving. So you can say a storm is likely to pass through this afternoon, but the evening should be clear. Today's quote of the week is from Warren Buffett, a famous investor. His nickname is the Sage of Omaha because he lives in that small city, Omaha, Nebraska, and he's known for his ability to make good long-term, level-headed investing decisions. Here's the quote: "The most important thing to do if you find yourself in a hole is to stop digging." He was talking about investments, but I think it applies more generally in life too. Sometimes we hang on to things or we keep doing things even though we know it's not good for us. The best first step is to stop digging. Stop doing that thing, whatever it is, that has put you in the hole. Only then can you worry about how to climb out. So here's the quote one more time. The most important thing to do if you find yourself in a hole is to stop digging, says the investor Warren Buffett. And that is all for today. Congratulations on making it to the end of another plain English lesson. Coming up on Thursday, mysterious seeds have been sent to people around the world, and we'll tell you what they are and why they were getting them in the mail, even though they didn't ask for them. If you enjoyed today's lesson, you can find even more plain English resources on our website. Test your knowledge with our episode quizzes, watch an in-depth video lesson, practice what you learned, and more. All that is available at plainenglish.com, and we'll see you right back here on Thursday.